Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. Today we'll present another great meeting and program with Steve Kiessling of Nature's Nursery. Before we get to that, I'd like to ask Chuck Mann to come to the podium to deliver a reflection, and then Andy Fox will lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardoni was born in Italy circa 1181. Informally known as Francis, he abandoned a life of luxury and became a passionate devotee of his faith. He was canonized as St. Francis of Assisi on July 16, 1228. During his lifetime, he also developed a deep love of nature and animals. It is known as the patron saint of the environment and animals. His life and words have had a lasting resonance with millions of followers across the globe. In 2013, the world's newly elected Pope made his decision to be named after St. Francis of Assisi as the man of poverty, the man of peace, the man who loves and protects creation. St. Francis of Assisi said, "If you have men that will exclude any of God's creatures from the shelter of compassion and pity, you will have men who will deal likewise with their fellow men." Let us pray. Dearest God, you have made us stewards of all living creatures. Please guide us to treat them with compassion and respect deserving of all your creation. Amen.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chuck and Andy. As we begin our meeting today, I'd like to thank and acknowledge USI Insurance as this month's sponsor. At this time, I'd like to invite new member Nate Gregg, who is jumping right in. Nate hasn't even been introduced yet as a new member, but he was greeting today, and he'll introduce our visiting Rotarian.
Good afternoon. President-elect Dick, we have one visiting Rotarian today. Visiting Rotarian, please stand as I read your name and remain standing until President Sharon welcomes you. We have with us Francis Jeffries from the Bridgewater, Massachusetts, who's a peace consultant.
Welcome, Francis. Great to have you here. If anyone has any guests today, I would invite them to come to the floor mic with their guest to introduce them.
President-elect Dick, it's my pleasure. Fran was just introduced as a visiting Rotarian, but Dr. Frances Jeffries is here. She is a Rotary Peace Fellow and is here working with our Water Committee at a meeting tomorrow, and she will be leading our community conversations that our club is initiating with Rotary clubs in our district to continue our discussion and find a solution for the pollution in Lake Erie. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Great to have you, Francis.
Dick, it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Wolf today, a potential Rotarian, 23 years with the Andersons, and he's going to be involved with the Water Committee as well.
Welcome, Bill.
Dick, it's my pleasure to introduce Meredith Wagner. She's the Area Office on Aging's new RSVP Volunteer Program Director. So please give her a warm Rotary welcome.
Welcome, Meredith.
Good afternoon, President-elect. I am pleased to introduce a guest from Owens Community College, our Director of the Center for Experiential and Civic Engaged Learning, Krista Kiessling, who is also married to our guest speaker today.
Nice to have you here, Krista.
President Dick and fellow Rotarians, I'm Pat Bowe from the Andersons. With me, I have Jim Paroli, who's just relocated to come work for the Andersons from Des Moines, Iowa. He's Vice President of our ethanol marketing and commercial organization.
Great. Welcome today. I know this person.
President Dick and Rotary friends and members, I'd like to introduce my wife, Susan. Susan's here today to enjoy the presentation. She's a former board member and volunteer at Nature's Nursery, and very excited that Rotary has gotten involved and helped out a little bit. So thank you very much.
Good to see you, Susan. Thank you. Now would be a great time to check into social media and let everybody know that you're at the Rotary Club of Toledo. Then I ask you to please turn off your phones to enjoy the rest of our meeting. This time, Kathy Tate, our Executive Director, would like to say a few words.
Thank you. I just want to mention the new badges that everyone has. I know President-elect Dick brought them to your attention last week. I didn't have an opportunity to really see all of them till today. But I'd encourage you to take a look at your name badge. Make sure that it's correct. If it's not, please let either me or Emily know. You should have your name at the top. You should have perhaps your title and what company you're with. So those are the things I want you to look for. I've had a few questions about why we did that. I'm not sure how much President-elect Dick mentioned, but it's a cost savings to the club of about $9.50 per member per badge. So that's one reason. We print them in-house, so it's real easy for us to make changes to them. You changed positions, you changed titles, so now we reduced the cost to about 50 cents a badge, and I think they're much easier to read. I really like them, and that's why I wanted to go to it. I always found that the gold badges were very hard to read. If you're sitting across the table, there was such a glare on them, and you'll notice there's different colors, so mostly everyone has a white badge. If you're a past president, you should have a gold badge. If you're a new member for a 6-month period, you're going to have a red badge, and that's how we can recognize everyone as red. And I've had a few requests for those. I understand that if you've been a member 25 years or more, they're silver. So you might see some multicolored badges, but I still think they're easier to read and understand what each of our members is involved with in their personal life. And again, if you have any corrections to those badges, please let me or Emily know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Just an announcement about visiting Rotarians. Anytime you have a visiting Rotarian with you at a meeting, would you please take them to see Emily at the reception desk out front so they can fill out the information, and then we can have one of our greeters announce them as we did today, because we want to make sure to give those folks a special welcome. A reminder also about the new member orientation that's coming up on Thursday, February 8th. We've started to do these in the evening, and we're inviting spouses and partners of new Rotarians to these informational and social gatherings. The next one is Thursday, November 8th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Spengler Nathanson, our law firm, down the street. The new members should have received an email invitation by this time, but if you have any questions, please call the Rotary office. This time, I'd like to invite past President Eric Fankhauser to the podium to present a foundation grant.
Thank you, President-elect Dick. On behalf of the Toledo Rotary Club Foundation, it's my pleasure today to present a grant check in the amount of $9,952 to the Toledo School for the Arts, which was used to purchase electronic keyboards. Our Youth Service Committee members received the request, participated in the vetting process, and made the decision to recommend the grant approval to our club board and foundation trustees, and the grant was recently approved. I'd like to welcome Dave Gerke, Development Director at the Toledo School for the Arts, to the podium to accept the grant and share a short version of how our foundation's gift of $9,952 has helped their organization.
Thank you. I'm so proud to serve Toledo School for the Arts. This is my 15th year as development director at the school, and one of my first assignments was to present to the Rotary for some cellos that we received through a grant about 15 years ago. And I remember looking up at the audience and thinking, well, prior to that, I was a musician on the road for 10 years, and then I owned a music store. So I never really planned on having a legitimate gig. So I looked out at the audience, and I thought to myself, so this is where we all end up in our 40s, at a Rotary meeting. And here we are, once again. Toledo School for the Arts has been able to flourish through gifts by many of you in this room, not just Rotarians, but Rotarians and other business people and the community. We are truly a community school. We depend upon our community. We do not squander our gifts. We're very, very happy with your support. Today, when you came in, one of the pianos that we did purchase, knowing that this check was coming, was out in the hallway. They're portable pianos that are able to be moved about through the school, and we don't have to tune them every month. Tuning costs about $150 per piano. Our static pianos that our piano students use to train on stay right where they are, but sometimes we have ensembles rehearsing all over the building, so it's required that we have instruments that can move. So young Gabriel Hagedorn is a senior at Toledo School for the Arts. Gabe, will you stand up? He was actually playing pieces today. Gabe was performing pieces today that he's using for his college auditions, so we know that he's going to do very well and represent Toledo and Toledo School for the Arts. So I can't thank you enough. Toledo School for the Arts represents almost 700 kids from 29 different school districts, 6th through 12th grade, and we'd love for you to come and visit. We do a thing the first Friday of every month called First Friday, 9 a.m. Please come and see us because I think you'll fall in love as deeply as I have. Thank you.
Appreciate Dave thinking we're in our 40s. That's very nice to hear. This time I'd like to invite member Gary Brown to the podium to introduce new member Steve Everett.
First of all, President-elect, I would encourage you to check your badge. I think you got one of the messed up badges. Fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure today to introduce Steve Everett as a new member. Steve works at the Madison Avenue Group, and he's the vice president there at the group, and he's also the director of one of their business agencies. He's been with that group since 2005, I believe it is, and he has also served on the board of the Executive Marketing Associations for 4 years. His wife, Jackie, is a financial investigator for Key Bank, and they met and fell in love at BGSU. And since then, they've had 2 daughters and a son. And talking with Steve, he has told me on several occasions how thankful he was that they looked like their mother and not him. The daughters, Sydney is 11, Lucy is 9, and Jake is 4. He graduated from BGSU. He grew up in Bellevue, Ohio, and I asked him, he told me it was Ohio. He said Bellevue, and I asked him if that was in the U.S., and he said yes. He spends a lot of his time taking care of his kids, and please pay attention now because this is important. He takes care of his kids. He coaches them in volleyball and basketball. He also makes beer on the side as one of his hobbies. And he drinks the beer. But the thing we want you to make sure of, that you understand, he doesn't do it together. Takes care of the kids on one end and the beer on the other end. Welcome, Steve Everett.
Thank you both. The membership committee has done a great job this year about bringing in new members. Another example here. And as always, we urge you all to be considering new members throughout the year. At this time, I would like to invite Alex Dew to the podium for the golf trophy presentation and an announcement about ITSA raffle tickets.
President-elect Dick, fellow Rotarians and esteemed colleagues, I would like to present the trophy. It is the Toledo Rotary Memorial Cup. And it's interesting, I've presented this trophy many, many times, and I've never read what's on the cup. So I will. May those of us who strive for this honor be ever mindful of those who did and are no longer with us. So thus the Toledo Rotary Memorial Cup. We're presenting this to our golf champions, if those of you were wondering what the trophy's for. But before we do that, we have something very important to do here. It is the passing of the baton, if you will. Of the baton, not the member. So Jack Negemeyer has been our golf chair, our faithful golf chair, year in and year out. And he always does a great job of booking the courses and the times and so on, and always struggles with that last-minute phone call, hey, I can't make it today and I can't get a sub. So Jack is worn out, needless to say. So we now have some new young blood in a Brad Rubini. Now, it's customary that the outgoing chair is showered with gifts. So that's what Brad is going to do with Jack.
Well, Jack has always been type of a Caddyshack type player, so we got him a bag towel. And to go with that outfit and some of the crazy outfits he's worn over the years, some matching socks for the bag towel. And then since he was a veterinarian, he never had a doggy cover for his driver, so now he has one of those too. Thanks for your service.
So, needless to say, Brad has some very large shoes to fill. So the main reason why I'm up here, though, is to really crown our new champions. I'd like to just take a brief moment and talk to you a little bit about some of our older champions. Okay, and I'm going to say some names here, and some of them may have passed, some of them may have not, but we've got Harold Hecklinger, we have Del Palmer, Ed Lee, Bob McDuffie, Erie Chapman, I already mentioned Skip Gardner, Larry Wambold, Paul Efflert. Again, these are individuals who have won this trophy in the past, going back to 71. Others in the room who have won this trophy that are still with us, Joe Zavak, Tom Manahan, Bob Wilkins, Craig Hoppel, Dan Murtaugh. I mean, the list goes on. And these are fantastic athletes. Brad Rubini, sorry. And his partner. Must have been on the backside of the trophy. Sorry about that, Bob. But I need to let you know that this league is a very tight league. We share a lot of fellowship. Okay, it's one Friday every month. We're all cordial to each other when we are playing each other, but once we turn our backs, it's just anything goes. Okay. Now, I don't mean kicking the ball out from under a tree or anything like that. Okay, we all play by the rules of golf. But anyway, so this year's champions, I'm proud to say, are Travis Tengeman and Marcus Newborn. Gentlemen. Now, maybe you can tell which one of these individuals is really the horse in the equation. Hey, wait! I didn't say anything. I didn't.
Oh, it's obvious.
So anyway, this is a new. These guys just recently joined the league and rose to the top from the bottom very quickly. So we're very proud of them, and if good luck next year, because I don't think too many people win it 2 years in a row. So again, thanks, guys. Okay, I bet you all were hoping that I'd be done now. I am done presenting the golf trophy. Now something near and dear to all of our hearts is It's something, okay? I know it's a cabaret, but it's a ball, okay? Now it's a cabaret. And along with the It's a Cabaret, we have a raffle. So many of you have probably heard about the raffle because every Monday you come in, we're standing by the entrance there hawking you for tickets. It's very important that you buy tickets because without the tickets, we're not going to raise the money to pay for the car that we're giving away or the other prizes. So I could also use some individuals to help sell raffle tickets. So if you are inclined to sell 10 of them, please see me. I'd be happy to give you 10 of them, and we'll get a prize for you after you bring me back all of them sold. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully we sell more raffle tickets.
Thank you, Alex. I'd like to invite Brent Kuzno to the floor mic for an announcement about this week's Toledo Spirits Under 40 event.
Thank you, President-elect Dick. And first, I just want to say thank you to everyone who brought guests today. It's really great because we all know, at least I know, that guests equals new members, and we're seeing the effects of that, so that's terrific. And to respond to Dave from Toledo School for the Arts about this 40 thing, I want to point out we are having an event on Thursday, the 1st of this new month coming up, and it's going to be at Toledo Spirits. And the reason I have Andy Fox standing with me is he's going to talk a little bit about how to sign up. But I also want to thank Andy Hornsby for his assistance. Aubrey, 2 A's. Aubrey, thank you. So the event is going to be a tasting and a tour. It's a new distillery, locally owned, Toledo Spirits. There'll be some food, and please do wear your Rotary pin. And now, Andy, if you can let people know how we're going to do the sign-ups.
This afternoon, I will create a sign-up genius. I personally have never created one, so bear with me as I figure out how to do it, but I have responded to them. It will be a quick, simple link. We need the RSVPs in as soon as possible because we are limited on capacity in their building. It is open to anyone and everyone, but we will give priority to those members who have a guest. We will share that link via email through Emily and then also on social media.
Thanks, Andy. And those of you that were at the Heights, our last and first event, that was a great event. So this should be equally fine. So we look forward to that. Wear your pin. And next Monday, we'll have a very brief meeting to follow up on the good results of our event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brent and Andy. Sounds like a great event. Now I'd like to invite Gary Corrigan to the podium to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, Dick. We're all the school of Disney where we know that all animals are vegetarians. We all know if we see a little bunny as a child, we'd take it home and ask your parents if you could keep it. We see a bird that falls out of a tree, we want to adopt it. We see a raccoon walking in the neighborhood in the morning with a little foam on its mouth, and we figured it didn't shave. There's a lot of things we don't know. And Steve, who's the executive director of Nature's Nursery, may not answer those questions. I just thought I'd throw them out for your consideration. Steve's had 20 years in nonprofit. He's earned the right to be head of Nature's Nursery. He's been associated with the agency for more than 12 years as a volunteer, transporter, board member. He's got education from the University of Toledo and the University of Virginia. Nature's Nursery, if people are not aware, is a wildlife rehabilitation center. Animals do go bad, right? They provide medical care to the injured, orphaned, or ailing wild animals, and they do conservation efforts. And they have outreach programs for children. And they cover 18 counties in northwest Ohio. Now, they answer over 200 emergency calls per week and provide care for 2,500 native animal species per year. 50% of them make it back into the wild. So, without any more, let Steve carry on the wonderful story he can tell you about Nature's Nursery. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Gary said everything, so y'all enjoy your lunch. Yes, I've been with Nature's Nursery for more than a decade. And this year, I should say 2017, was an amazing year for Nature's Nursery. We have, and I'm just looking, I'm going to apologize, I've got screens all over, so this is new to me. We had a record year in many different ways. And if I can get some slides. Yay, slides. Gary mentioned our community education efforts. We do programs in the community from preschoolers to assisted living programs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We're in all the schools in the area. And our outreach is actually larger than 18 counties. We received animals from 22 counties this year. And we were able to do over 260 programs. One of the greatest things we get to do, are our open houses, that we get to bring people to our center. And to just tell you where our center is, we're at the Blue Creek Conservation Area. For the lawyers in the room or people who have visited, it used to be the workhouse. If anybody knows what that is, out there, it used to be basically a prison farm where Blue Creek is. But our facilities don't allow us to bring large numbers of groups in until we do an open house. And between our open houses and our annual wildlife festival at the Botanical Gardens, we had over 1,600 people show up to just those, or 1,500 people show up to just those events. As Gary mentioned, we do a lot of phone calls. And actually, it's more than 200 a week during the busiest days. It's 200 a day. So we'll have 2 lines running, and when someone's answering the phone, there'll be 6 messages, and then they'll listen to the 6 messages and answer another phone, and there'll be 10 messages. And this will go on and on and on. We encourage you to continue to call, even if it's after hours. We have people who answer the phones until sometimes 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. So if you have an issue with an animal, call us. We can help educate you. And that's where we do a great deal of our education is on the phone. It's kind of funny. We say, "Hi, this is Steve. Put it back." Because people just want to take it out of the wild. They see a bunny, they think, "I haven't seen Mom in 2 days. I need to save it." We say, "No, leave the bunny be. That's what the bunny's supposed to do." So if you have a question, call us. We save a lot more animals by telling people what not to do than by actually bring them in and rehabbing them. Some of our education things, we have our mascot. We did part of Holy Toledo Tuesday at the Mud Hens. So we took it as a great opportunity to get someone to sponsor a mascot. So we got Bart the Owl, because you have a barred owl, you have a barn owl, and now we have a Bart owl. So we get to bring Bart out to our programs. The one picture shows a red-tailed hawk that we were able to release at a program. So that was kind of enjoyable for everybody. You don't get to see that very often from the public. And then we are, as you see our display board, we are out in community programs all the time. As I said, it's a record year. We did almost 2,900 rehab cases this year, which is about 400 more than our normal year and 100 more than our largest year ever. And it was the year of the opossum. We usually get 100 or so opossums. But we got 333 of those suckers in. And they're cute, and they're cuddly, and they're mean, and they eat a lot, and they're stinky, and they take a great deal of time and energy. And for some reason, this year was the year of the opossum. Last year was the year of the duck. We got 500 or 600 ducks in. You can never tell. We know that the seasons will start up in March, and it'll start getting crazy till about September, October. But we don't know what each day will bring. It could be we get 40 animals in a day, we might get 0. But it was the year of the opossum. And just keep an eye on the number of songbirds, because I'll relate back to that, to the Toledo Rotary Foundation. But our largest number of animals we brought in were songbirds, with a close second to bunnies. When they say they reproduce like bunnies, they're not kidding. We get them by the bucket load, and they take a great deal of time and energy to care for. A couple of our different animals that we did release. Actually, in 2017, our release rate was over 40%. The national average is under a third, so we're doing better than the national average. Our little ragtag group of rehabbers and facility, I would put up against the largest, most well-equipped organization in the country when it comes to rehabbing animals. What the staff do, and I take 0 credit for it. I get to do this part so they can do their part. what they do with a limited number of a limited space and resources that we have is beyond incredible. But it also means that sometimes we can't use the bathroom because there's a blue heron in one bathroom and a turkey vulture in the other bathroom. Or I can't use part of my office because there's mangy squirrels in there. And, well, that's just what you do. We all sacrifice. But right in this is a red-tailed hawk that was released and a ring-billed gull. The pictures, there. I'd rather see the pictures than me. So the release rate is pretty amazing. And even with the busiest year we've ever had. And it comes with a cost, of course. And this is one thing that it was never illustrated until just recently. We kind of put it together. And they're not hard costs. I can't give you a receipt that it costs $24 to rehab a songbird. But the animals, these are good ranges of costs between food and shelter, staffing costs. This is what it costs. And an animal might be there for a few days. They might be there for 3 or 4 months. Right now we have a dozen bats that have been here, some since December, and will be here till March or April whenever the weather gets nice. So we're caring for these bats who had their hibernation disturbed, so they're ours for 4 months. So if you look at the songbirds, 800 songbirds times $24, it's almost $20,000 just to care for songbirds for us in terms of staffing costs and food and things like that. But I found this a really good visual that Nature's Nursery never did, because people think, it's just a baby bird. It's easy. Sure, but you put 800 of them together in a year, and it adds up. Excuse me. Some of our animals that we have rehabbed. One of the cooler ones that I wanted to point out is, what is that? Left-hand side middle. The one with the pink legs. That's a songbird called Sora. And it came in with a couple broken legs, and I thought, for sure, we're going to euthanize this thing. There's no way. And someone said, well, let's just try to, put casts on it and wrap it. That was back in November, and it's still with us and will be with us till spring. So we're able to heal this bird and get it back out. And they're not a common bird around here, so it's even more satisfying that we're able to care for a bird that isn't very common. Some of the other pictures, you have the opossums up top. They look happy. They're not. And that's the way we like them. If they're happy, then they're not releasable. If they don't cower or get mad at you, then that's not good for them, and you want them angry. Obviously, we have the baby ducks and the baby birds. Those are robins. One of the many bald eagles we've gotten in over the years. We've gotten in a few this year. Some, unfortunately, weren't able to survive. One we just had, and we were fortunate enough that the Blade and Channel 13 did some nice stories on us. We weren't able to release her, but we were able to rehome her to another facility so they could use her for education. And then that skunk picture is just too cute. I had to have it. That is a skunk. We take skunks. So if I come home, my wife can attest, I might smell like skunk. And that's just, what we do. And we couldn't do any of this without our volunteers. If we didn't have almost 100 volunteers providing 15,000 hours a year, we would have to close our doors. We just couldn't financially do what we do. And those are all the different things that volunteers do. We have 365 days a year. We have anywhere between 3 and 8 volunteers cleaning cages, feeding animals, transporting animals. I started off as a transporter. You get a call in the middle of the day on a Saturday and say, hey, can you go get this owl? Sure. So you get your gloves and your bag and your box and your whatever you need, and you go and take this animal. We do, I lost my train of thought. For our foster care volunteers, we couldn't do it without them. And as my wife's standing, and I'm also intimidated because she's right there. And when her boss, Steve, and I'm thanking you, Steve, said, hey, your wife's coming, I thought that was lovely. So she's in there going, yeah, you're doing great. But she and I foster as well. I foster birds. She fosters squirrels. I don't really care to foster squirrels. She doesn't want to foster birds. But we all do it. And if we weren't able to foster these animals, you think about a baby, right? They don't just need to be fed 9 to 5. They need to be fed all day and all night. And so if our fosters weren't there doing that, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Same thing with our volunteers who do the hotline calls. Like I said, if we didn't have volunteers helping out, we'd be in some serious trouble. Now, the impact that the foundation has had. About a month ago, I was here and I got the big check, and I thanked everybody, and I said more to come. I wasn't going to bore everybody with what the grant is doing. The grant is enabling us to build not only a new unit, but rehabbing another unit, and then we were able to purchase a third unit. So we are actually able to stretch the dollars more than what we originally thought. And these are mostly for songbirds. So you can see these aren't finished pictures. All that's left to do is some of the wiring and some doors, but the units are all but done and they'll be ready for spring. But they're going to be able to double our capacity to help songbirds. A lot of times there's competing birds that can't play well together in the same space. You can't put a blue jay and a cardinal together. So what would happen if we had several blue jays and cardinals that need to go out and get strong and kind of get acclimated to the weather? Well, some would have to stay inside. Some would go out in their songbird unit. Now we have the ability to put them both in there. And so that it reduces their time inside and increases their ability to, or their chance of being able to be released. So the foundation money was very instrumental in that. And it's going to be such an amazing use of space. It's also, we can use it for baby ducks. So if we have an extra 200 or 300 ducks, that this year could be the year of the duck again. Also small birds of prey, screech owls, which I'm about to bring a screech owl out here in a minute. And then there's this other unit that we were able to get that allows us to do, again, for larger raptors and some other birds of prey. So it almost sounds disingenuous saying thank you so many times, but as Dave said, we rely on you all as individuals, as organizations, and as a foundation to help us do what we do. And this has a direct impact. In 2 months, these units will be full. And here's a couple of the animals that were released last year. That's a saw-whet owl, and that is a kestrel. And some of the coolest things are being able to get one of these animals that came in really sick and be able to release it. We had, speaking of an animal in a bathroom, we had a great blue heron that came in frozen when we had the really cold weather. It was frozen to the ice, icicles on its beak. We had it in a heating blanket, in a towel. It couldn't move. 3 days later, it's in the bathroom, eating live minnows. And about 2.5 weeks later, when the weather broke, we were able to release it. So it went from being near death to, in 3 weeks later, being able to release it. And what an amazing feeling and a cool sight to be able to see something like that. So, without further ado, I can talk about this. How you can help. Gary prefaced earlier, said, don't ask for money. I wasn't going to ask for money, but there are ways that you all can help. And I also wanted to highlight a little bit. Not only do we rely on our volunteers, but we get a lot of support in-kind contributions. We have an Amazon wish list that folks regularly contribute to. Scout groups and individuals always seem to come through with paper towels and the things we need. Just recently, we had 2 little kids, one was 9 and one was 11, who, instead of getting birthday presents, took donations and brought us donations. And how cool is that? Great parents. We love that their parents are able to do that. So those are ways you can support Nature's Nursery. Now, without further ado, I do thank you, but I have a little friend with me. His name's Einstein. So just give me half a second. And I guess, isn't this normally like question answers time? If anybody has any questions. Takes a lot longer than I thought.
It's a skunk, is it?
Yeah,
Skunk.
it's a skunk.
Healthy? Will you come get it anyway?
No. Come on. All right. That's Einstein. Einstein is an eastern screech owl. He came to us when he was a chick. His nest had fallen. Come here, dude. His nest had fallen, and for his first probably 6 or 8 weeks of life, we had to hand feed him. Had to feed him with tongs. He can fly, so he flies around the office. It's not uncommon for him to buzz your head. And if you know anything about owls, they don't make any noise when they fly. They're silent flyers, so all of a sudden you'll feel just brushing, well, if you have hair, brushing your hair. So pretty startling. So he can fly. But when we went to live test him for live mice, he looked at it and thought we were trying to feed him the most foreign object ever. Still does not like live mice, so not a candidate for release. But as you can see, he doesn't mind the bright lights. He doesn't mind the noise. He's a wonderful ambassador for his species and for Nature's Nursery. And people can get up close and personal with him. They can ask lots of questions about the species, about what they do. And he's one of, like I said, 30-some-odd education animals that we're able to bring out in the community. So this is Einstein. If you guys want a closer view, feel free. He's got every side of his is a good side. So he'll be glad to take a picture. And I can get out of the way. But again, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing Nature's Nursery the opportunity to be supported by you. And I hope to see some of you out at some of our events. So thank you.
One more time if you have any questions. Any questions at all for Steve?
I'm sorry?
Like, where does he live and what do they do in his reach out? I mean, there's so many different.
Kathy has a question, and I will reiterate said question.
How big will he get?
This big.
Oh, okay.
Kathy also asked, where do they live? Screech owls, like most other owls, except for the snowy owl, are nocturnal hunters. So they come out at night. He lives in woodlots. You'll see him everywhere. Screech owls are everywhere. And most of the animals you see, hawks and owls and other birds of prey, you'll see. We actually have a new kestrel that we couldn't release. His name's Jefferson. Anybody guess where we found him? Jefferson Avenue. He was living in a gargoyle, and his nest got knocked out, and his one sibling didn't survive, and he did, but he wasn't able to be released. So now we have a new program kestrel.
Yeah, Steve, I think it may bear repeating or a little more detail on how the ambassador program works when animals are not able to be re-released.
Sure.
How you use them for I don't want to say publicity, but public information.
Spoken like a true PR guy. When we don't release an animal, there's several things that happen. So a couple of them obviously are their injuries are too great that they have to be euthanized. They may die of their injuries on their own. Or if they're able to be saved but not released back in the wild, we either can use them ourselves or we bring them to other... Dry cleaning.
It's nature.
It's all right. It actually...
Did you grab my towel?
The funny thing is this isn't even embarrassing. This isn't the worst. When we were getting out of his cage yesterday, he decided to give us a pellet. That's what owls do. They regurgitate pellets. So thanks, buddy. So we bring them back. So either they're one of our education animals or we send them to another facility who could use them. We just had a snowy owl that we weren't able to release, and it went to the Lake Erie Nature and Science Center. And so if it can be used, and they're not pets. There's a big responsibility to care for these animals, and you have them for a long time. We have a desert tortoise that someone took out of the wild in Arizona. He'll be ours for the next 80 years. And so it's a big responsibility, and we don't take it lightly to euthanize something, nor do we take it lightly just to save it so it can be a display animal. Quality of life is very important.
A lot of us live in neighborhoods where we're getting a lot of wildlife now that's not necessarily conducive to small pets. We have some, I live out near in Sylvania, and we've had some coyotes. There's been some nasty attacks on the golf course where small animals get eaten up. Had a fox in my yard the other day. We've got deer, big herds of deer constantly in the neighborhood. Can you comment a little bit on what's going on with the public reaction and the dealing with the animals that are out there?
I guess I'll go from my own experience. I live in Perrysburg, and I live in town in Perrysburg, and I kind of jokingly say that south of Levis Commons is Bowlingsburg. And people there do say, I've got this animal, and I've got this animal in my yard. Yes, but 6 months ago, it was their yard. And so as we continue and encroach on habitat, they don't have anywhere to go. Deer love gardens. I honestly, I don't know. Besides deterring, if someone calls us, we give them ideas of how to deter. So if you have a coyote or a fox in your yard, what steps you can take to deter that animal from being around. People say, I have opossum, but I feed the neighborhood cats. Don't feed the neighborhood cats. The opossum will go away. They're nomads. They don't stay in one place too long unless there's food. It's definitely frustrating. I can totally understand to have that many, extra wild animals in your yard. I say enjoy it because before too long, they're going to have nowhere to go. And, they might not be here. I hope that's a good enough answer that doesn't get me in trouble. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Good. Disclaimer here, I served on the board for Nature's Nursery for 3 years. And the rehab part of it's very important, but could you also inform everybody about the educational piece, because I think that's as important with who you educate, how someone might be able to contact Nature's Nursery to get a program set up for the children, because I think that's critical to set themselves up the rest of their life to learn about this.
Couldn't agree
and
more.
how you could do that, and that would help everybody too. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for the softball, Jim. Yes, education is 50% of our mission. Getting us out into the schools so kids can see these animals that they don't think live in their neighborhood, but do. Get to see them up close and personal. Snakes and opossums and turtles and the animals that they may be afraid of, dispel some of the myths so that they don't see a snake and think I must immediately beat it with a stick. That's super important, but I think by volume, the phone calls are our best way to educate people. If I received your phone call, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, we could have a good exchange and you could have your questions answered and then can go about what you're doing. And then you can tell your friends. We also have a large footprint on Facebook. We have more than 10,000 Facebook followers. And so we are often putting out information, seasonal information there as well. So yes, the education part is extremely important, not only just to save more animals, but also just get people to understand that we have to live in coexistence with these guys, whether we live in downtown Toledo or we live out in Sylvania or Bowling Green or way out in Napoleon.
When you were taking off the list of all the different types of animals, you've got the songbirds, the possums, the squirrels, and that sort of thing, one glaring omission seemed to be raccoons. Now, having been the unwilling landlord for some raccoons in my attic last summer, I hired a guy to get rid of them. And I said, what do? Do you take them out to oak openings and let them go? He goes, oh, no. We have to euthanize them. When you come across an injured raccoon, if you do, what do you do with them?
Unfortunately, Nature Nursery doesn't have the space to rehabilitate raccoons. We would add to that 2880, add 600 or 700 more animals. We just don't have the physical space. By law, we can't rehab coyotes or deer, but by choice, we don't rehab raccoons just because of space limitations. They need to be individually quarantined, and it doesn't make sense. If someone brings an injured one to us that needs to be euthanized, we certainly will do the humane thing. But yeah, if you get an animal trapper, they don't relocate. They relocate permanently. And so that's a choice that you as a landlord or a homeowner, you decide to make. Call us. We can also give you suggestions on how to animal-proof your attic or your crawl space, because we do that. But unfortunately, because of space limitations and resources, raccoons just are that one out. Yeah, that was him. Raccoons are an animal that we choose not to just because of the nature of our space.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
I think we may want to consider having Einstein on call and letting him go to liven up one of our meetings sometime. It could be interesting. Steve, thank you very much for today's great program and insight into Nature's Nursery. To show our appreciation, the Toledo Rotary Club Foundation will make a donation to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund in your name. Please join us next week when our speakers will be Kurt Frank and John Crisp speaking about the Toledo Blade News Slide, President Sharon will return to run that meeting. There are no regular meetings following today's program, but we do have an ad hoc committee on the board structure in the North Cape room in the 3rd floor right after this meeting. And we're bringing him up front and center, Chuck Mann, to close things out.
I'll see what I can do here. Yeah, okay. This is another chronicle in my experiences in the checkout lines. Yesterday, I was at my local Sam's Club to buy a large bag of Purina dog chow for my dog Waldo, and while I was in the checkout line, the woman behind me asked if I had a dog. Could have been a guy. The person behind me. I told her that, no, I don't have a dog. I was starting the Purina diet again. I added that I probably shouldn't because I ended up in the hospital the last time. I lost 50 pounds, but I awoke in the intensive care ward in a full body cast with tubes coming out both arms. I told her that it was essentially a perfect diet and that the way it works is you load your pants pockets with Purina nuggets and simply eat 1 or 2 every time you feel hungry. The food is nutritionally complete, so it works well, and I was going to try it again. Horrified, she looked at me and asked if I ended up in the intensive care because the dog food poisoned me. I told her, no, I stepped off the curb to sniff an Irish setter's butt, and a car hit us both. I thought the guy behind her was going to have a heart attack. He was laughing so hard. Sam's won't let me shop there anymore.
Thanks. Gary, thanks again for bringing Steve in. Steve, we look forward to your participation. Please go out and serve today. With that, we're adjourned.